Hey, what's going on, everybody? You know how we get into it, so let's just go. Today, I want to talk about this Venezuelan gang. I'm probably gonna get the name pronounced it wrong. Trende Aragua. But it's the gang that apparently the world is on fire over right now, and why people are declaring them terrorists, and they're getting them out the country, and they're inciting the kind of war act where it just allows people to just get shipped out the country without any trial. So I'm going to talk about it from a different angle, as I'll always try to do, and just get us to understand, like, why are we suddenly attacking these people more than all others, right? But first, let me just explain for the slow people that I am not excusing the crimes of this gang. They are bad news. We definitely want to get them out the country. We definitely want to seek justice for anything that's happening. But what I want us to do is, I feel like this is something that we don't, and that the right wing is manipulating, but it's getting us to actually have some standards and have a rubric or a precedence of what bad actually is. Like, we know, like, you can separate things into good and bad, but there's like a scale, right? There's and I'll make it plain with like murder, right? There's like first degree murder, which we understand is like the worst form of murder, right? It's premeditated and, like, evil, vile, you know what I'm saying? You thought about it, you calculated it, in a brutal form of murder, right? But then there's also a murder that occurs with involuntary manslaughter. You know what I'm saying? You could be driving a car, you slick on some black ice you didn't see in the middle of the night, and it hits another car and kills somebody. That murder still occurs. We still want those murders not to occur, but that's clearly different between first degree murder, right? Where the act was intentional, deliberate, and planned, and one was like kind of an accidental thing. And it may even be out of like accidental negligence. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have like not gotten your brakes fixed and it ended up hitting somebody because of that, but it wasn't because you set out to kill someone. So let's just establish that we understand that there are degrees to different things, and everything is just not the same, good or bad, right? You know what I'm saying? And there are different tactics that you would take to address these issues based on the severity. You know what I'm saying? The things that you would do to maybe reduce involuntary manslaughter are not the same things that you would do to reduce first degree murder, even though they are all murders, right? So follow my logic here. So with this Venezuelan gang, my question to you is, yeah, they're bad guys, but to what level, right? And how would we rank badness, right? It would be maybe how many murders they're committing, right? If we're saying these gang terrorists, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have to be like terrorizing average Americans, right? In a large basis. But in all the research that I found, and you can fact check me, like, I really was doing this for days, all I could get was that this gang is related to three murders. Three in America. That's it. From what I've seen. Now, you can fact check me and look, but the murders were, now, two of them were cops, and one of them was a former cop, a former Venezuelan cop that they killed in Florida. So technically, he wasn't a U.S. citizen, but it was a murder that happened in the U.S. So two U.S. cops that were murdered, and not knowing the full details of that was like a first degree, we're targeting cops, or maybe it was like a crime in which the cops got murdered in that instance. I don't know that yet. I could fact check it, but three murders. Now, granted, murders are bad, but to classify this as like the number one crime syndicate terrorist designation, or sending them to Guantanamo in El Salvador shit for three murders, that seems kind of crazy in my view, right? How many burglaries have they done? Have they been robbing people? Are they a huge crime syndicate here? I've really been looking for the statistics, and I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, yeah, they have committed some crimes, but like relative, let's just talk about, I don't know, white supremacist groups. Now, according to our own intelligence, right, the FBI in itself, white supremacist groups are the number one terror threat in America, period. Based on, and that's in comparison to like Islamic terrorists, right? White terrorists have committed more acts of vandalism. They have committed more murders of all degrees, more violence, more vandalism, more threats, more everything, right? More everything, and they're homegrown here. But guess what the United States isn't doing? We're not designating them as terrorists. They're not even designated as terrorists. And you see from some of the January 6th things, they're released from prison. So to me, it just seems that we're being gaslit. We're being taken advantage of to have these people be seen as these others, these vile, horrible people that don't deserve due process, that don't deserve human rights. But then when you're asked to actually rank their crimes, like in terms of the severity of it's not that severe. And the things that are committing all the murders, all the assaults, all the violence, they refuse to even designate that as terrorism. So I just want you just to think about it a little bit differently and not like have some sophistication in your thought process. And it's not saying that you are defending the rights of this Venezuelan gang. That's not saying that. But what I am asking you to do is like, hey, if we're going to care about murder, if we're going to care about terrorism, we're going to care about harassment and property damage and all that shit, shouldn't we have a standard, a rubric that actually like is fair? That actually shows the people that are doing the most should be penalized the most, as opposed to just targeting shit. And why are we targeting them? Because they are taking advantage of our racism, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the easiest group to discriminate against? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we know about Venezuela, right? We know that Venezuela, like most people didn't even know about Venezuela until like Chavez, right? And then it was this horrible socialist country that is all crazy. So first they were like victims. They were like crazy people. They had Chavez, they wanted him out, they got him out, and they were like, okay, let's help Venezuela, which is why they had a lot of these visa programs, because like they were escaping socialism, right? They were escaping danger and all these gangs, right? So you let them in the country. But now when you need a scapegoat, you just reverse that story all over. Now these people that were escaping communism, escaping all this shit, now they're the horrible gang people that you need to get out the country. And let's just have any gang. Let's just pick any fucking gang. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't matter. Insert Venezuelan gang. And now they're the people that you think are inhumane and need to get out the country. It's like they just expect you just to have this knee-jerk response into just hating a certain group of others. You know, we already are talking about, you know, immigration in South America and Central America that they hate. So it's a very easy scapegoat. And then you add Venezuela, which is like probably the most notorious country, you know what I'm saying, with their leadership and socialist ties. And that it's a really, really easy thing to get people to hate. So I just want you to think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's what they do with everything. It's the same tactic. They want you to think of everything as a very polar good versus bad, but they're not asking you to look at degrees. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so for example, like with the budget cutting in the government, cutting the government budget is great, but where are they looking? They're looking at Social Security and food stamps, but they're not looking at government contracts for billionaires or tax cuts for billionaires or any of that in the military that has failed every audit and has wasted more money than any organization, but they're not going there at all. But they want you to say, oh, well, let's just cut money. But like, not any sophistication to say, like, where should we cut and how should we cut? And if you're against them cutting with a fucking hacksaw on organizations that they shouldn't, then you're somehow you're for government waste, right? So just don't be stupid. You can have the nuance of the argument. You can be against murder, but also say, hey, let's concentrate on the first degree murder and let's not put as much effort into the involuntary manslaughter. If we're cutting the budget, hey, let's cut the billionaire subsidies and tax cuts and the bloated military, but maybe we should leave food for the kids and education and poor and elderly. Maybe we should leave that alone, or at least wait later to cut that, right? Like, let's just think deeper about these issues and stop letting us gaslight us and get us into these false moral arguments that separate us more than and then keep us together. Until next time.